Aye. Before I start, I should probably say that ULTRAKILL has blood and gore, and it's like its whole gimmick. You literally heal from blood. So, I guess a content warning for that, but it's not that, like, graphic. It's like 2 polygons, you'll be fine. I was originally going to do my project while I built this Lego set I bought for quite a lot of money, but the footage turned out to be terrible. So I had to shift gears in a whole new direction. Then it hit me. There's an entire layer of 4 levels dedicated to the use of Solitude, a game called ULTRAKILL. From what the other projects I've seen, they can be understood in many different ways, but since I have the subtlety of a brick going through your window, this will be a full analysis of Limbo. Before that, I should explain what ULTRAKILL is in the context prior to Limbo, as it makes the beginning of the layer much more impactful. ULTRAKILL is a first-person movement shooter that's being published by New Blood Interactive and developed by Hakita and Pitter. You take control of V1, a war machine designed to be fueled by blood, taking the descent through hell. The first screen you see when you start a new campaign says it best. Mankind is dead, hell is full, blood is fuel. Before Limbo, you must take the journey through Prelude, the mouth of hell. The harsh, brutalist corridors of Prelude make up the entirety of the 5 levels. It's the farthest mankind traveled into hell before their entire demise. And you can see that they were mostly interested in harvesting whatever they could find down here. The architects are boxing you in as you fight through the husks that painfully roam this hellish factory, and the rare demons that attempt to turn you into scrap metal. The last thing that we should take from Prelude in context of Limbo is its atmosphere. It's dark, grimy, filthy. It's entirely unkempt and dreary. The abandoned machines that springfill the factory have become a secondary hazard for both you and them. The horde of enemies and the music are the few things keeping you going as you descend to the true entrance of hell. As you approach the beginning of the 9 layers in O-5, the last level of Prelude, the usual break core is replaced by a more uneasy droning noise, past a sea of whatever the past humans tried to process. You can see a boss door at the other end. A few more machines try to block your path by testing your movement, but by now, it should just be an afterthought. Running through the door, you prepare to face what enemy will block your descent, only to be faced by an empty battle arena. Apparently they aren't for show. Cerberus awakens from its foundation, and the second one follows suit as the first starts to become more damaged. This opening is actually one of my favorite boss openings in any of the fights we see in ULTRAKILL. It uses familiar sights as a way to throw off the player, thinking that something must be here. They just can't let us off that easy. And they don't. As both the Cerberus fall, we're allowed to travel deeper into what awaits us on the other side. We finally land, and what happens next is something I don't think needs any commentary for how jarring it is. A calming song plays as we step into the new, more inviting land. We hear birds chirping, see trees, and a blue sky, but there's something off about it. As we explore, we learn that the birds are fake, the trees are fake, even the sky is fake. Everything we find and see in the first layer of hell is a sham built to look real. This opening gives us a feeling of uncomfortable isolation. There's no enemies in the first portion of the level, something that we should enjoy. Break from the dodging and weaving when facing off against groups of husks, but it feels unnatural. Prelude has conditioned us to take a lack of enemies not as a break, but as something that builds tension, which is exemplified with the previous fight with Cerberus. We know something will happen, and soon. The sound of the song playing only mocking us as we realize this is still hell. Finally, we're thrown back into the action with the introduction of drones, the music switching to be much more in line with what we heard in Prelude. Looking into the song names actually gives us more context into the meaning of the introduction of 1-1. The first song being titled 1,000 Greetings, as it beckons us into more peaceful looking Limbo. While as the first enemies arrive, it gets phased out for a new song titled A Shattered Illusion. As 1-1 ends, we enter 1-2. A small detail is shown to us that adds to the juxtaposition of O-5 to 1-1. As we descend, we see a map of the future levels in the first act, which was not shown to us at the beginning of 1-1. But now, since the surprise is over, we can see what truly comes ahead. As 1-2 begins, we hear the same song that we heard in the opening of 1-1. However, now, we have enemies to fight in this opened area. The addition of the song leading us to believe that now the shock is over. We're back to what we expected as much coming from Prelude. Climbing into the door high above the battlefield, we find the blue key we need to progress. As we go to loop back around, we're met with this sight. The music cuts all together as we see the charred remains of what could have been fodder for us. We're alone again, not by the design of the lair, by a separate force that puts you on edge. A sense of an easy solitude, similar to the last, but more intense. As we know this time, there has to be something beyond this point that has done this. And it's something that we have never seen before. Each door is like a jump scare, knowing that whatever or whoever did this is still roaming the area. The tension finally boils over as we reach the outside area where we had just entered a few moments before. Everything we see is ablaze, similar to the corpses we had to walk past returning to this point. The title of the level finally flashes on screen. 1-2, The Burning World. A slow, droning noise finally breaks the silence, similar to the sounds before facing off against the Cerberus. Falling to the surface of this now inferno, we find what caused this chaos. Street cleaners. Robotic enemies that can dodge and parry, just like us. However, their weak point makes them light work for a robot with $1 and change. For $1 and change. Opening the entrance deeper into Limbo, the song, A Complete and Utter Destruction of the Senses, begin to play, as another Cerberus decides to break its slumber and attack. Everything can kill you, from any angle, at any time. It doesn't matter how alone you might feel. There will always be the chance of a curveball ahead of you. Everything about 1-2 conditions the player to stay on their toes at all times, no matter how peaceful it might look. This is still hell. Breaking through the fiery hellscape of 1-2, we arrive at 1-3, Halls of Sacred Remains. This level in and of itself is a curveball. We've been taught throughout the first half of the lair that surprise and loneliness will be the main tools used against the player. However, this level shows what it has on its sleeves. So far, it has the highest enemy count in the game, with 125 showing up in the stage. Its branching path structure only requires the player to go through one half of the level. The structure of the level is now more inside than it is outside. You finally reach the heart of this incredibly desolate looking castle, but it seems many others like and unlike you have found it first. You barely notice through the smoke and the flame of 1-2, it's becoming dusk as you make your journey. The music that plays here, Castle Vein, reflects its more linear nature when it comes to the presentation. You're back to your regular programming. No insane changes or reveals, just the constant of the organ and snare pushing you forward. There's one final obstacle that's in your path, hiding, displaying the imagery of God giving Adam knowledge. Whatever it is tears the two angelic figures apart, revealing the sight of a scorpion-like demon, the hideous mass. Its small arena and its large size constantly try to box you in, eventually causing it to become enraged as a last-ditch effort before being fully destroyed. With that labyrinth behind you, you descend further into the finale of Limbo. As you step out from your landing site, you see dusk has transformed into night. A one-direction path beckons you towards the centerpiece of the level. As you look upon the night sky, the name of the level appears. 1-4, Clair de Lune. The music of the same name plays softly in the background. But your guard cannot be let down yet. What you have experienced above has taught you to stay vigilant, especially when alone. Crossing the bridge, you finally lay your eyes on the chateau that makes up the entire level. A dull gray covers every wall, except for the large mural of an angel that we've never seen before. Gabriel, the judge of hell. The man we shall surely face soon enough. As we climb the staircase, we see the true horrors that befall Limbo. It was never the enemies, the juxtapositions, the surprises. It was always the solitude, the tension. As we enter this damned individual's quarters, we find the apparent cause of their death, begging underneath a false visage of a judge of this unruly place. In their journal, that gives us more context on how terrible the existing in Limbo was. My mind is adrift with the internal torments, lurid vistas painted in insidious tones, hollow walls that scream to the touch. A mocking song plays at all hours. Even the sounds of birds are fake. All reminders of my enduring damnation. Gabrielle, my dearest friend, in endless penance I have awaited your embrace in heaven. I have been so faithful, accepting of my fate, but to what end? What punishment is this, that I am to bear the keys to my own doom with no help of salvation? These skulls sneer their devilish grins, voices chattering, tempting me to take the plunge deeper into hell. I won't do it. I've hidden them away amongst the furnishings, books, the very foundations of this accursed place. Forgive me, Gabrielle. I await your remaining text. irrelevant. Whoever this was, their solitude drove them mad. The knowledge of everything around them, the walls, sky, birds, water, everything was fake, just continued to instill how alone they were. Given the keys that could send them to a deeper layer of hell, their plight becomes more complicated. Will they take the plunge and face a new torment? Will they remain in the false halls of their existing torture? Seeing the keys must have not been a help either, as their familiar human look must have caused them to go insane. Hearing them speak continuously, requesting them to fall deeper down into the layer below. But somehow, the part that must have got to them the worst is the constant pleas for Gabrielle, which all fall on deaf ears. No one can be forgiven from hell. This is later explored much greater in Layer 5 with the ship of fools who think repenting will give them a new opportunity to rise to heaven. Gabrielle has left hell's subjects to constantly plead and wonder when they will be saved, as this is Limbo, and Gabrielle shall never return. As you explore, you find the keys once hidden away by the now dead sinner. 3 are used to open the door, but as you place the first one and return back to the mansion for more, a red flash shoots by. Your fears were right. It's getting predictable at this point. There's always going to be someone or something that got here first. Steeled by your previous bouts, you discover the 2 other keys you need and face whatever is behind that door head on. Nothing lonelier than fighting with your doppelganger, but a Crimson Twin is no match for the first edition, dealing enough physical damage to tear off the limb of the inferior machine. Taking for yourself. As for V2, it escapes to the sandy dunes of greed, waiting for V1 so it can have a rematch. With your newfound ability, you continue your descent towards the lower layers of hell, leaving behind the lonely facade of Limbo. Limbo, in and of itself, explains the terror and torture of solitude for all eternity. Not entirely through words, but through mostly sights and feelings. The unsettling silence of the scorched halls of 1-2, the tense serenity of the beginning of 1-1, even to the climax of 1-4, seeing what toll solitude took on the poor sinner that had to endure such a fate for how long they must have. The first layer of ULTRAKILL's campaign perfectly describes the flaws of prolonged solitude, showing that it can be calming, but put into context of the chaos that exists in the world, can sometimes feel like a false promise of peace. It's fully clear that Limbo rejects the ideas of solitude and its effects on the people that experience it for prolonged periods of time.